Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. The city of Chicago glittered with a veneer of sophistication and power, a facade I had become all too familiar with. The high-rise office where I worked was a testament to that: sleek glass walls, polished floors, and an expanse of modern luxury that contrasted sharply with the ethical dilemmas that often played out within those walls. I sat in the conference room, surrounded by stacks of documents and my laptop humming softly. My name is James Blake, and my specialty lies in corporate law. On this particular day, however, my routine was interrupted by a case that promised to be anything but ordinary. Robert Greene, a prominent pharmaceutical executive, had come to me with a problem that extended far beyond personal grievances. He suspected that his wife, Laura Greene, a senior VP at his company, was involved in an affair with Mark Evans, the company's CEO. But it wasn't just the affair that troubled him. Robert believed that Laura and Mark were colluding to manipulate drug approval processes, an allegation that could have serious legal and public health implications. The conference room door swung open, and Robert entered. His usually immaculate suit looked slightly disheveled, and his face carried the weight of sleepless nights. "James, thank you for seeing me," Robert said, his voice tinged with both gratitude and anxiety. "I know this is asking a lot, but I need your help." I gestured for him to sit across from me. "Robert, I understand the gravity of the situation. Let's start with what you know. Why do you believe there's something illegal happening?" Robert took a deep breath. "I've noticed discrepancies in Laura's work, financial transactions that don't make sense, unexplained meetings. And then there's the way Mark has been acting, secretive, evasive. I have a gut feeling that something is off. I'm worried they're not just having an affair but are involved in serious corruption." I nodded, feeling the weight of the case settling on my shoulders. "All right, Robert. I'll need to dig into this carefully. We'll need to gather concrete evidence. This could involve a thorough investigation, which means sifting through a lot of data and possibly conducting surveillance." Robert's eyes were filled with a mix of hope and worry. "I trust you, James. Just be discreet. If word gets out before we have something solid, it could ruin lives, not just theirs but mine as well." I assured him that discretion would be a priority. As Robert left, I was left alone in the room, the enormity of the task ahead sinking in. I knew the coming weeks would demand every ounce of my skill and patience. My assistant, Sarah, knocked softly and entered, her presence a small comfort in the sea of uncertainty. "James, you have a call from the firm's senior partner. He's asking about the Greene case." I sighed, knowing that my involvement in this case would soon be under scrutiny. "Thanks, Sarah. I'll take it in my office." As I walked to my office, the enormity of the situation began to weigh on me. I had faced complex corporate cases before, but the personal stakes and potential legal ramifications of this case were unprecedented. In my office, I picked up the phone, and the voice of senior partner Jonathan Miller crackled through the receiver. "James, I understand you've taken on the Greene case. Be cautious. These kinds of situations can spiral quickly." "Understood, Jonathan," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm aware of the sensitivity and will handle it with the utmost care." After hanging up, I stared at the piles of documents on my desk. This case was not just about uncovering an affair or corporate misconduct. It was about navigating a labyrinth of deceit that could shake the very foundation of the pharmaceutical industry. The challenge was formidable, but the pursuit of truth was a call I couldn't ignore. The investigation into the Greene case had begun in earnest. What initially seemed like a straightforward affair quickly morphed into a complex labyrinth of corruption and deceit. As the days turned into weeks, the mountain of evidence I needed to sift through grew exponentially. My office was now a war room of sorts, filled with files, recordings, and notes scattered across every available surface. I began by reviewing Laura Greene's financial transactions. With the help of a forensic accountant, we traced a series of suspicious payments, unusual bonuses, unaccounted for reimbursements, and hefty cash withdrawals. One afternoon, as I was deep in the weeds of financial statements, my phone rang. It was Tom, a reliable informant who had worked with us on previous cases. "James, I've got something for you," Tom said, his voice low and urgent. "I managed to get hold of some emails between Laura and Mark. They're discussing something that sounds like it could be related to the drug approval process." I leaned forward, interest piqued. "What kind of emails?" "They're discussing meeting with certain officials, offering incentives for faster approvals. It's all coded, but it's clear they're up to something." "Great work, Tom. Send me the files. I'll analyze them and see how they fit into the broader picture." Later that evening, I sat at my desk, analyzing the emails Tom had sent. The coded language and references to special arrangements and expedited reviews were clear red flags. It was like piecing together a jigsaw puzzle, each piece bringing us closer to understanding the full extent of the corruption. The breakthrough came when I managed to acquire surveillance footage from a hotel where Laura and Mark had been meeting. The footage, which was provided by a discreet contact who worked in the hospitality industry, showed the pair entering and leaving the hotel on multiple occasions. Each visit coincided with key dates when regulatory approvals were being expedited. One day, as I was going over these findings, Sarah knocked and entered my office with a worried expression. "James, we've got a problem. One of the analysts just uncovered some irregularities in the company's drug approval reports. They might have been tampered with," she said, handing me a file. I flipped through the documents, noting the discrepancies in the approval dates and test results. "This aligns with what we've suspected. They've been falsifying results to push their drugs through faster." Sarah nodded. "What's our next step?" "We need more concrete evidence. We need to prove that these discrepancies were part of a larger scheme, and for that, we need a whistleblower from inside the company." At that moment, the phone rang again. It was Robert Greene, sounding more anxious than usual. "James, I've been hearing whispers. People are getting suspicious about my inquiries." "Is there anything concrete yet?" he asked. I reassured him, "We're making progress. I've gathered significant evidence, but we need to be cautious. If we move too quickly, it might jeopardize the entire investigation." He sighed. "I understand. Just keep me updated." After hanging up, I turned to Sarah. "We're close, but we need to find someone willing to come forward with direct evidence of wrongdoing." By the end of the week, luck was on our side. An insider from the company, a mid-level employee named Emily, reached out to us. She had been hesitant to come forward but was now ready to share her knowledge of the illegal activities she had witnessed. In a clandestine meeting, Emily revealed crucial details about how Laura and Mark had manipulated the approval process. She handed over documents that detailed bribes and falsified reports, which were exactly the kind of proof we needed. As Emily left, I looked at Sarah. "This is it. We have the evidence we need to move forward. Are you ready for the next step?" she asked. "Absolutely," I replied, knowing that the sting operation would be our next challenge. "We'll need to act fast and with precision." The evidence was mounting, and with Emily's testimony, we were now armed with the tools needed to expose the corruption and bring the wrongdoers to justice. The next phase of the investigation would require careful planning and coordination, but the path to uncovering the truth was now clearer than ever. With the evidence compiled, the next step was to turn our findings into actionable legal strategy. The challenge now was to convert the circumstantial evidence we had into a solid case that would stand up in court. I met with federal prosecutor Claire Thompson in her office. She was a seasoned professional known for her no-nonsense approach to high-profile cases. "Claire, thanks for meeting on such short notice," I began, handing her a dossier filled with the collected evidence. "I believe we have enough here to build a strong case against Laura Greene and Mark Evans." Claire reviewed the documents, her brows furrowing as she absorbed the details. "This is substantial. But we need more than just paper trails and recordings. We need them to be caught red-handed in the act of their illegal activities." I nodded. "Exactly. That's why I'm proposing a sting operation. We can use the information we've gathered to set up a meeting that will lure Laura and Mark into discussing their scheme openly. Claire considered this for a moment. We'd need to be meticulous about planning. If this operation goes wrong, it could not only jeopardize the case but also alert them to our investigation. Agreed, I said. I've already worked out a preliminary plan. We'll set up a fake compliance meeting under the pretense of discussing new regulations. We'll have undercover agents positioned to record the meeting and gather any additional incriminating evidence. Claire leaned back in her chair. I'll need to consult with my team and get approval from the higher-ups. But if this goes according to plan, it could be a game changer. Over the next few weeks, we meticulously planned the sting operation. The meeting was arranged at a nondescript conference room in a hotel, chosen for its privacy and ease of access. We crafted fake documents and schedules to make the meeting appear legitimate. On the day of the operation, I was on edge. The stakes were incredibly high, and a single misstep could unravel everything we had worked so hard to build. I checked in with the undercover agents, who were positioned discreetly around the conference room, ready to record. Claire and I waited in a nearby van, monitoring the operation through live feeds. My phone buzzed. Sarah was on the line. James, they've arrived. Laura and Mark are in the room, she said, her voice steady but tinged with excitement. Understood. Keep me posted on any developments, I replied. The minutes ticked by slowly as we watched the footage. Laura and Mark entered the room, their faces betraying no sign of their guilt. The conversation began casually, but as they delved into the compliance issues, it became clear they were discussing their illicit activities. Look, if we expedite the approval process for this new drug, we can make sure it hits the market before the competition, Laura said, her voice low and conspiratorial. The officials we've been dealing with are on our payroll. We just need to make sure the payments are on schedule. Mark nodded in agreement. And what about the falsified reports? We need to ensure those stay hidden. Claire and I exchanged glances of relief. This was the concrete evidence we needed to corroborate our findings and move forward with charges. After the meeting, the undercover agents swooped in, arresting Laura and Mark on charges of fraud, bribery, and conspiracy. The sting operation had been a success, and the evidence gathered during the operation would serve as a critical component of our case. The following day, the news broke. Headlines across the country reported on the scandal, detailing the charges against Laura and Mark and the fraudulent activities they had engaged in. The fallout was immediate, with the company's stock value plummeting and public trust eroding. I met with Claire to review the aftermath. This is just the beginning, she said, her tone both hopeful and resolute. The trial will be our next hurdle, but we've laid a solid foundation. Absolutely, I agreed. We've exposed the corruption, but now we need to ensure justice is served. As I walked out of the meeting, I felt a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. The operation had been risky, but it had succeeded in revealing the truth. The next phase of the case would be crucial in ensuring that the responsible parties faced the full consequences of their actions. The courtroom was packed on the day of the trial. The media frenzy surrounding the Green case had turned it into a national spectacle. Cameras flashed as Laura Green and Mark Evans entered the courtroom, their once confident demeanor now marred by the gravity of their situation. The trial was a high-stakes affair, with both defendants facing serious charges and potential long sentences. I sat at the prosecution's table, reviewing my notes and preparing for the final arguments. Claire Thompson, my partner in the legal fight, was beside me, her focus unwavering. James, we've done everything we can, Claire said, her voice low but reassuring. The evidence is solid, and our witnesses are credible. We just need to stay focused and present our case clearly. I nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Agreed. It's been a long road, but we're almost there. The trial was intense. Witnesses testified about the fraudulent activities, and the evidence we had gathered, including recordings and financial documents, was presented in court. Emily, the whistleblower, was particularly compelling in her testimony. Her detailed account of the corruption inside the company was crucial in establishing the case against Laura and Mark. During a recess, I spoke with Robert Greene, who had been following the trial closely. His face was a mix of relief and apprehension. "James, I want to thank you," Robert said, his voice tinged with emotion. "This has been a nightmare, but seeing them held accountable gives me some hope that justice can prevail." "It's not over yet, Robert," I reminded him. "We still have to see this through to the end." The trial concluded with closing arguments. I presented our case, emphasizing the scale of the corruption and the impact it had on public health. The jury deliberated for several days before returning with a verdict. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. "Laura Greene and Mark Evans, you have been found guilty on multiple counts of fraud, bribery, and conspiracy," the judge declared. "You are hereby sentenced to 15 years in federal prison and ordered to pay restitution." The verdict was a resounding affirmation of the work we had done. The courtroom erupted in whispers and murmurs, but for me, there was a profound sense of closure. In the days following the trial, the pharmaceutical company declared bankruptcy. The scandal had dealt a severe blow to its reputation, and the financial fallout was catastrophic. The collapse of the company was a stark reminder of how deeply corporate misconduct can impact lives and industries. I met with Claire to discuss the aftermath. "James, this case has been a landmark," Claire said, her tone reflecting a mix of satisfaction and relief. "It's a testament to the importance of legal accountability in the corporate world." "It certainly is," I agreed. "But it also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and greed. We've made a significant impact, but there's always more work to be done." As I reflected on the case, I thought about the personal toll it had taken. The long hours, the pressure, and the ethical dilemmas had all been challenging. Yet, the successful prosecution of Laura and Mark and the exposure of their corruption provided a sense of purpose and achievement. The Greene case had reaffirmed my commitment to justice and ethical practice in corporate law. It was a victory not just for me, but for everyone affected by the corruption we had uncovered. As I moved forward in my career, I carried with me the lessons learned from this case, knowing that the pursuit of truth and integrity was worth every challenge.